But look, let's go straight to this amazing election. This election actually proves Australia has changed, and the old style of politics that's dead. Mass immigration, identity politics and the welfare state have all changed us. And the old Australia is never coming back. Most importantly about this change, there is no more we, no more us. Labor knows this, but the coalition can't handle it, and that killed the Liberals in some key seats with Chinese voters, for instance. And the Liberals face a massive challenge, especially with the Prime Minister today warning his own side not to get carried away and lurch more to the left now that it's had its biggest win in more than 80 years, twice as many seats as the coalition in the lower house, needing only the Green support in the Senate to pass laws.
I promise to be a Prime Minister for all Australians, those who voted Labor, those who didn't, and hope to earn the trust. We've been an ambitious government, we'll continue to be an ambitious government, but we won't get carried away.
Now sure, John Howard in 2004 did win about as many seats as Albanese has now and lost the very next election, so there's hope. But Labor then was still left with 60 seats when the coalition now has fewer than 50 and no sense of direction. Not for the Liberals, who lost all the seats at any rate. And this will be a fight for the very existence of the Liberals, a huge challenge. How, for instance, is it going to deal with this changed Australia that I'm about to show you? To me, this is the big story of the election. But before I get onto that, first, some quick caveats about all this, because there are actually many reasons the coalition was utterly smashed. Beware people say, oh, it's this one thing. Now, of course, you've just got to blame, mostly, simple, stunning incompetence. Remember, just 4 months ago, the coalition must have been doing something right because it actually led in the polls. And whatever went wrong mostly in the 4 months since, especially during the campaign. As I said last week, I'm not, wise after the event. That campaign was stunningly bad. Its ads were weak. Its message was incoherent. Its policies were a mess. I mean, its attack on working from home, that was so dumb that the coalition had to dump it mid-campaign after that was all over. And its tax policy. How can a Liberal Party actually offer bigger taxes than Labor? Labor had bigger tax cuts. It's amazing. And Peter Dutton, look, nice man, absolutely. But really, but he just looks scary and not like the easygoing Anthony Albanese. And Labor attacked Dutton with a very ferocious personal campaign. In the end, Dutton lost his own seat. And now the Liberals are looking around, wondering who can possibly lead us out of this pit of despair? And the answer is, there's not a single obvious person up to that job. Not one. The contenders, it seems, are Angus Taylor, but he too often looks unsure, lacks cut-through, and as a shadow treasurer, he is blamed for a lot of this policy mess. Then there's Deputy Leader Susan Lee, but to be honest, she lacks weight, lacks authority. And there's Dan Tehan, who, I like him, but he doesn't look or sound the leader type. Now, Andrew Hastie, the former SAS captain, he does look like a leader. He's already bowed out. I think that's probably wise because he's still far too young, lacks experience, and still lacks Albanese's human touch. But already the party's left, like Labor, like the Greens, is pushing for power, pretending the Liberals went too far to the right under Peter Dutton.
Most Australians subscribe to a live and let live ethos, and that is entirely consistent with liberalism, and that should be the focus for the Liberal Party as we chart our course back to the centre, because that's where elections are won.
I mean, seriously. What did Dutton promise at this election that was very right-wing? When he fought The Voice, by the way, he actually won the referendum just 18 months ago. But at this election, what was so right-wing? Promising higher taxes than Labor? Promising to stick with net zero emissions targets? Promising huge spending? Burying his defence policy? And actually working from home is really more. It should be embraced by libertarians, even conservatives, as long as bosses get a fair return. Scrapping that was not far right. So that claim was nonsense, just an ideological smear, like Dutton being a Donald Trump, which Labor kept claiming, which was news to Trump himself today.
Albanese I'm very friendly with. I don't know anything about the election. He's been very, very nice to me, very respectful to me. I have no idea who the other person is that ran against him. And, you know, we've had a very good relationship.
So, complete nonsense. So let me tell you now about another big issue that really did hurt the coalition, this new Australia. Nothing like the dead and gone Australia that the coalition seemed to be hanging on to in the campaign.
We can make Australia great again, that we can bring Australia back to its former glory.
Australia's former glory? What does it even mean to the 30% of Australian voters now who weren't even born here? What do they care about former glory, even if they knew what it was? The fact is that the coalition likes talking about us and we when they talk about Australian voters, but there is no us and we anymore. We're so many different tribes, identity groups, whatever. For instance, 17% of Australians say they have Asian background. And a survey by the Australian Population Research Institute found almost 60% of Australians born in Asia didn't feel a strong connection with this country. Same with 66% of Australians born in the Middle East, Africa and Israel. No strong connection to Australia. Tell them about we and us. Nearly 1 million Australians have told the census they don't even speak English, or not well. So, let me show you how this, one, hurt the Liberals in this election, and two, how Labor exploited it. Now, in the last week of the campaign, Liberal Senator Jane Hume commented on reports that a Chinese association linked to China's Communist Party was supplying volunteers for a Labor campaign and a Teals campaign. Some were even filmed telling Chinese Australians they were obliged to vote as instructed. Now, this is obviously a security issue, but Labor jumped all over, admittedly clumsy comments by Liberal Senator Jane Hume that some of those volunteers from a China-linked group could be spies. Now, Labor politicians with Chinese ancestries flooded Chinese social media, stirring up ethnic tensions in this country by falsely claiming that Hume was attacking all Chinese Australians, and not just people from a group linked to the dictatorship's propaganda arm.
You don't need to go out that far on the polling booths, Claire. There might be Chinese spies.
This is absolutely disgraceful. We are not spies. Chinese Australians have been in Australia for over 200 years. We are loyal citizens and we have just as much right to participate in Australian democracy as anybody else.
Why is it that the Liberal Party continues to question the loyalty of Chinese Australians?
That deliberate smear, a lie that Hume was talking about all Chinese Australians, worked brilliantly, according to Chinese Australian journalists on the ABC, who repeated that Labor spin.
Things turned very different directions in the last 48 hours.
I went to some voting booths. People with a Chinese background mentioned to me time and time again about that video.
Right. So the implication here is that Liberal Party, Jane Humes, had implied that there were Chinese spies within the Australian Chinese community, and that is something that the Chinese community, particularly here in Box Hill and Menzies, has really taken offence to, and that's why they decided to vote Labor?
I don't know the ultimate effect, but two Liberals in seats with big Chinese minorities have now lost their seats, one narrowly. The impressive Mandarin-speaking Keith Wallahan in Menzies, which is 27% Chinese Australian voters, and Shadow Foreign Minister David Coleman in Banks, 20% Chinese ancestry people there. So, does this now mean that the Liberals can't even talk now about Chinese communist interference in our democracy? Is that why Anthony Albanese never calls communist China a threat, never confronts it? And to the other example, this election, two new Muslim groups backed Muslim candidates on Muslim platforms, Palestine number one, in two Sydney electorates where more than a third of voters are Muslim. More than a third. In Blaxland, Ahmed Oof got more than 20% of the vote, second only to Labor's Jason Clare. In Watson, Ziad Bazyouni got 16%, second only to Labor's Tony Burke. But they didn't even have to win to change our politics. Because Labor wooed that Muslim vote, tried to head off this challenge by turning against Israel and going soft on Islamic hate preachers. So we can't talk about that either now. But the rot goes deeper thanks to these new identity politics. We have a government that now flies 3 flags. And more than that, won this election by promising handouts to everyone and demanded sacrifices for none. How can you appeal to the national interest when a lot of people don't quite feel part of that nation? So there's no talk of how Labor will actually pay for the promises. No talk of how it will cut our monster debt. There's other topics of national interest also played down. No talk from Labor about making our military stronger to protect us all from, don't say China. Labor also attacked Dutton's promise of big cuts to immigration. And this is the new Australia. It's like our culture has changed from a home culture to a hotel culture. A home is where we live as a family and we all feel like we have to look after it, make some sacrifices. A hotel is where we demand room service and expect someone else to maintain the joint. That's where we are. 3 flags Labor knows this. The 1 flag Liberals just got smashed.